voice of the fan. Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass, right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money, you can cash it. For news on LA hoops, come over to Peach Basket. Up-to-date sports, post-game reports, debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man up, you can ask Peach Basket. The Peach Basket, come and tune on there. The Peach Basket, where the news begins. We're dropping news like we're in the stands. Creative views from the average fans. The Peach Basket, the Peach Basket, the Peach Basket.
All right, thanks for watching. We are the Peach Basket, a site dedicated to all things basketball. We're really just a group of passionate fans who love to read, write, and talk about the game. Today, we're going to talk about Week 17, and specifically our Western Conference strength of schedule power rankings. These are a unique power rankings. It takes the subjectiveness out and really just relies on who played, who won, makes it really simple, makes it really straightforward. I've been doing this now for about 3 seasons, and this is the first time that we've really started to share it. So I'm excited to do that with y'all. First thing, I did this last week. I'm going to do it again for probably a few more weeks, or maybe for the balance of the season. I want to explain how this works. A lot of power rankings are really, man, if not all power rankings, are really just subjective ideas of who's number 1, who's number 2, who's number 3, etc. It takes things into account as to, like who beat who, by how much, and really oftentimes the person's bias, because it's hard to leave that stuff out. I didn't like power rankings because of that. I just thought they were too subjective and never made sense to me why a particular team was above another. And it didn't make sense because it was just somebody's idea. So I sought out a more fair approach, an objective approach. And this is what we landed on. This is, again, our 3rd season doing it, and I think it works pretty well. First thing that happens is you group all 15 of the Western Conference teams. We only do Western Conference right now into one of 3 buckets. They're either a quality team, a good team, or a bad team. Then, based on wins and losses at home and on the road, they get points. That's it. Simple as that. It's really straightforward. You can see how it works here. A good team that wins on the road gets 8 points. A bad team that, or if you lose rather to a bad team at home, you get 0 points. You beat a good team at home, you get 8. There. Now, hopefully it makes sense. You'll notice we highlighted the 0 and the 11. Those are the most and the least points you can get. An 11 is what we call a quality win. That's a win on the road against a quality team. That's tough to do. You get a little bump for that. A bad loss is a loss at home against a bad team. Makes sense, right? Those will cost you. So that's really how it works. Once that's there, we have to understand who is in what bucket. That's presented here. I do this twice. I do it at the start of the season and at the All-Star break. Might make sense to make some additional changes, and maybe next season I will. But right now, this is the bucket. West has a lot of quality teams: the Jazz, the Blazers, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Mavs, the Clippers, and the Lakers. The good teams are the Spurs, the Warriors, and the Pelicans. And the bad teams are the Rockets, the Grizzlies, the Timberwolves, the Kings, and the Thunder. And the Timberwolves are probably a bubble team. You could make an argument that they belong in a good team now. But for now, they're still a bad team. With that as an intro, let's get right to it. We'll start with the bottom. At 15 and 14 are the Timberwolves and the Houston Rockets. They've been there for a while, and I don't think they're moving. They might flip-flop a little bit, but for the most part, I think that's probably how we're going to end the season. The Thunder come in at 13. I was going to say tough to be a Thunder fan right now, but it's not. That's kind of an exciting team. I like Dort, and I certainly like where the team is headed. But right now, they're having a rough year. The Pelicans dropped to 12. Now, this is interesting, right? We'll talk a little bit more about this, but notice, right, that the Pelicans dropped to 12 after having a 2-2 week. 2-2 week is not bad, but something went wrong for them to drop 2 spots. We'll talk a little bit about that when you see who took over their spot. But the Pelicans come in at 12 after really Zion Williamson is just going off, which is, again, kind of exciting to see. The Spurs. The Spurs will always be at least here, if not higher. It's just who they are. It's what they do. They moved up a spot to number 11. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Sacramento comes in at number 10. New Orleans was at 10. Last week, they dropped 2 spots to 12. What's interesting about that is Sacramento had a winless week. They were on 3. So what happened? When I looked at this, I thought, well, my algorithm is wrong. Something is screwy. It has to be, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would a team that's 0-3 move up a spot? Sacramento was at 11 last week. And a Pelicans team that went 2-2, respectable, drop. The key is, again, in the quality wins and bad losses. Look at Sacramento's 9 quality wins, 6 bad losses. New Orleans is at 10 quality wins, 8 bad losses. So essentially, Sacramento's at a +3, New Orleans is at a +2. Because those quality wins count for a little bit more, it's that little extra bump. And we're talking really percentages here. I do, in my spreadsheet, track it by percentages. I don't here, but it's a minuscule difference between 10, 11, and 12. But right now, because of that difference in the number of quality wins against bad losses, Sacramento, despite a winless week, moved up a notch. And New Orleans dropped because, again, that disparity between quality wins and bad losses. So pretty interesting to me. If you're an analytical person, you might find it interesting as well. Otherwise, you'll just think we're all geeks. Number 9, the Golden State Warriors. We talked already about Lou Dort playing really well at New Orleans. We talked about Zion playing really well. I think I said Dort at New Orleans. Dort at Oklahoma City Thunder. Zion Williamson with the Pelicans. Nobody's playing better than Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. But it's not really resulting in enough wins to make a big dent. The Warriors come in at 9. They were 9 last week. Memphis at 8. And, this is the thing where, we talked about before. Memphis is right now listed as a bad team, but they're 3 games above 500. They've got 10 quality wins. At the very least, you'd make a strong argument that this is a good team right now. Matter of fact, I'm talking myself into it. I might make that change next week. But for now, they are where they are. Portland Trail Blazers are at number 7. Again, no change in 7, 8, 9. Dallas, the Mavericks, dropped a spot. But we all know the Luka legend continued this week. If you haven't checked out our 6D video, I'll see if I can't link to it. Check it out. Luka had himself a pretty good week. The Lakers came in at 5. The Lakers are very interesting. Everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of doomsayers said that with AD out, LeBron out, and others, Marc Gasol kind of unhappy, trying to fit in Andre Drummond. This team was going to kind of have a rough go, let's say at the very least. But they have it. They're playing above 500 without those guys. They're playing well, and they actually moved up a spot this week. So the Lakers are doing well. I don't think they're in any particular danger of moving down to the play-in tournament before AD and LeBron come back. The Nuggets are at 4. They were at 4 last week. Phoenix drops to 3 for the first time in 8 weeks. They had been at number 2 and holding steady for a while, but they did drop this week to be replaced by the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers are playing phenomenally. They seem to be peaking at the right time. They, like the Lakers, are out players. They are not out their best players. Kawhi and Paul George are both back. But they're missing quite a few starters, Patrick Beverley and Serge Ibaka. But they continue to play really well and seem to be peaking at a pretty good time. Their wins seem to be coming pretty easily for them. The number one spot forever is belonging to the Utah Jazz, of course, without Donovan Mitchell for at least a week or so. Might be tough for them, but where the Clippers are kind of gaining on them a little bit, I don't know. It's going to take quite a bit, I think, to take over, both at the number one spot in the Western Conference as well as in our power rankings. Those are the 1 through 15 power rankings for Week 17 in the Western Conference. As always, thank you for watching, and remember, we're Peach Basket. We're the Peach Basket, a site dedicated to all things basketball. We'll be back next week with another power ranking.
Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass, right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money. You can cash it. For news on LA hoops, come over to Peach Basket. Up-to-date sports, post-game reports, debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man up, you can ask Peach Basket. The Peach Basket. Come and tune on in, the Peach Basket, where the news begins. We're dropping news like we're in the stands. Creative views from the average fan.